I was an English major with a concentration in 20th century British poetry, so thoroughly unemployable. And my job, I can't have a bad day. I believe the leader of an organization.
What does that mean? You can't have a bad day?
I believe
everyone has a bad day.
Yeah, I know. Well, you do, but you don't show it. Think about people that add joy to your life. And I picked some guys from my soccer team in college. And how many days a year do you see them? And it was 3, maybe 4. And it said, do the math. You're going to be dead in 20 years. Are you happy with that number? And if not, change it. I don't care about specific product knowledge or industry knowledge. If you hire someone who refuses to lose, that person is somebody you're going to want to go through battle with, good times and bad times. All things being equal, people buy from people they trust and like. All things not being equal, they still find a way to buy from people that they like and trust. Robert Frost has this great quote, says the best way out is always through. There's no going around it, right? This is where we are. The only way we're going to get through this is to get through this.
Darcy Curran, CEO of Highline Warren. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Absolutely. Glad you're here.
I really appreciate it. If you don't mind, maybe we can start with just Highline Warren in general. What is Highline Warren? How long has it been around? And if you can go back a little bit in time, I know as we're entering your office here, there's a bit of a history wall that goes back to the early 1900s, and I certainly was surprised by that. So maybe start with a little bit of the history and bring us up to speed with what Highline Warren's doing today.
So the Warren side of Highline Warren was started over 100 years ago by Bob Schlatt's grandfather. Bob Schlatt ran it, before him his father, before him his grandfather, over 100-year-old family-owned business, blending oil, among other things, but blending oil, and big distributors for that. The Highline side of Highline Warren also dates back over 100 years, with Levin's Supply being the oldest part of it, in the Sacramento, San Francisco area. But Highline side was created in 2016 by a private equity company called Sterling Group out of Houston, Texas. They put 2 companies together, but those 2 companies were actually each 4 companies, sort of loosely affiliated, quasi-competitors with a national footprint of primarily distribution. And they wanted to create one company that did distribution in the automotive aftermarket coast to coast. So they brought me in. They bought these 2 companies, which were really 8 companies, brought me in 2016 to run that. We bought 7 more companies in the next 4 years, took those 15 companies, created a national footprint of, again, primarily distribution with a little bit of blending and filling. And then in 2020, Pritzker Private Capital, on the same day, November 9th, 2020, bought Warren Distribution from Bob Schlatt, bought Highline Aftermarket from Sterling Group, and combined the 2 companies. So we go back, much of the company goes back over 100 years. One of them, half the company was one culture, one really successful company run by one family for 100 years. The other side is 15 companies put together in a period of 4.5 years, all successful, all with good cultures, and all doing similar things. And our mandate was to build a management team, put it all together, create a national footprint of distribution with vertical integration. As we think about it, we're the leading solution partner with vertical integration of maintenance consumables. And all those words are very significant to what we do. And as we think about it, so solutions partner, that's important because we're not just excited to sell another gallon of this or another widget there. Where we think what makes us different is we partner, whether it's a customer or a vendor, to help them run their business better. Not just sell another pallet or another truckload, but what are some things that they're tackling in their business that we could do better for them? And vertically integrated, so we are unique in that we've got a national footprint of our own distribution centers and our own manufacturing plants, and that's pretty unique. A lot of times people will have manufacturing but not distribution. A lot of times they'll have distribution but not manufacturing, and a lot of times they'll have regional footprints, but not a big national footprint. And then maintenance consumables, we talk about that because we don't do hard parts. When we start doing hard parts, we start competing with a lot of our customers. Think about everything your car uses as you're driving down the road, and you need to maintain that. That's where we play. Usually heavy, inexpensive, low margin, not easy to move around products. That's where we play.
So that I understand that, but I wonder if you could be a little bit more specific about when you say vertically integrated manufacturing and distributing. I get the heavy bottles, right? I mean, we're looking at a couple behind us here. There's a big Rain-X jug, and I'm sure when you are distributing those at scale, not everybody wants to do that, and not everyone can do it profitably. But Rain-X doesn't say Highline Warren on it, does
Right.
it? So what do you, when you're manufacturing products, or when you described it as blending oil, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so primarily what we make, we produce over 200 million gallons a year of liquids. We typically blow mold the bottle. We blend what's going in it. We fill it. We put it on a pallet.
You make the bottle and the fluid. Is that typical?
Again, it goes back to vertical integration. So if you do that, if you make the investment and do that, you control all processes of the manufacturing. You're not spending more buying bottles from other people. And for us, if we're going to vertically integrate, we're going to make sure we do it all the way down the line so that we get the savings everywhere. So we can become the low cost private label supplier for all these people. So very few products, nothing we make says Highline Warren on it. Of the 200 and something million gallons we make, 200 million gallons of it is in someone else's name, and you'd never know it was us.
Mm-hmm. I picked up on that in the lobby. There are a couple magazine articles that say, the $1 billion company that nobody's ever heard of, and the almost $2 billion company that nobody's ever heard of. And I was confused by that because there's a big sign that says Highline Warren on the outside of this building, but yet it was almost a point of pride in those articles that nobody's ever heard of you.
Yeah. So as we think about it, we think about our partnerships, right? We want to make our partners better. We don't care if they win, we win. We don't have to have our name all over the products or anything. So when we decide to partner, one of the things when we first started putting the companies together, we might represent 7 or 8 or 9 different manufacturers on something. I'd rather be more significant to fewer manufacturers. Mm-hmm. When times get tough, I want them to know that we are with them, and they're number 1, 2, or 3 in our world. I want to be number 1, 2, or 3 in their world, and I want to help them succeed. And if they grow, then we're going to grow. Mm-hmm. If we make 100% of your wash or def or RV antifreeze or lubricants, if you win, we win. I don't need my name all over that.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And when I think about this combination that you've described, run by private equity, bringing, what was it, like 7 businesses together and then merging that with another business. Thinking about your background, did you come from like the bottle blowing business or the fluid mixing business?
No.
How did you get?
Yeah,
why is this your?
I've only had one job before this. So I worked for 30 years for a company called Ferguson Enterprises. That's a
plumbing business.
Plumbing.
Yeah.
So I started July 13th, 1987, right out of college. I was an English major with a concentration in 20th century British poetry, so thoroughly unemployable. and I was Ferguson hired and still hires a whole lot of trainees every year, and they had a trainee program. My 2 roommates from college had moved up to the D.C. area. They were a year ahead of me. I was going to go up there, live with them for a couple years, take a job, any job, and then go back to law school. Mm-hmm. And I started on with Ferguson. And they were, in 87, they were about $300 million, and today they're $33 billion. And it's a distribution company. They don't manufacture things. They are a distribution company. Oh. And while I was there, we grew from 300 million to 22 or 23 billion, and they decided they were going to be world class at distribution. So I got to go to school on what does it mean to be a really world class distribution business. And when you think about distribution, there's not much difference. It doesn't matter much what's in the box. The fundamentals are pretty much the same. So when I was with Ferguson, my last job was up in Canada, in Toronto area. And I decided to leave. I looked for a job in private equity that was a distribution company, and the fundamentals are going to be the same. There are not that many of them. It's not a complicated business. No one's calling us to build a rocket. We buy truckloads of stuff, we break bulk, we ship it out in smaller quantities. That's half our business. The other half was the blending and filling. Even though I didn't have a lot of experience in that, we had people in the company who have been doing it for 33, 34 years, and I could learn it.
Yeah. I mean, you say that all very fluently now, and I just think about the Darcy that took that job at Ferguson, hearing what you just said and trying to make sense of it. You know, it's not that complicated. We break bulk, we do this. Do you think Darcy, and was it 1987 you said?
87.
87. Yeah. I mean, there's a picture frame on the wall over here that says, I think it says Ferguson on it.
It's my offer letter, my original offer letter from, I was a senior in college, from May of 1987. Making $19,000 a year, working 70 hours a week, and next year I got 2 vacation days. Couldn't sign it fast enough.
And that Darcy Curran could understand what you just said.
Yeah, I think it's all an evolution, right? So I took the job honestly thinking I'm just going to do something for 2 years and go to law school. Mm-hmm. And then Ferguson, at the time, I started outside of D.C. You know, I was one of 10 trainees they hired that year, and we come in and they start your first year, your first 12 months, you were in a warehouse, loading and unloading trucks, driving forklifts, making deliveries, understanding the business from the ground up, which is the best way to learn any business, right? And so spent a whole year doing that, and then started progressing through. And in the meantime, I was studying for LSATs at night. Mm-hmm. I took an accounting class because I had never taken an accounting class, and I decided that if I'm going to be in business for a bit, I probably should learn a little bit about accounting. And
you did it for Ferguson. You just because you were in Ferguson. I just did it
because I just never. If I was going to be in business, I avoided accounting, anything accounting all through college.
Yeah.
Give me medieval poetry, I'll take it. But
not
accounting 101 wasn't me.
Right?
Yeah, and so as I worked longer at Ferguson, I realized I really enjoyed business, and the structure they had was. You work your way through inside sales and outside sales, and you get a small branch you can run. First branch was in Gainesville, Virginia. It was 4 people. So you're running a little small business. You've got bumpers, you've got training wheels on because there's a great process to make sure you don't screw it up. But you got to learn business, and I found that I really enjoyed that. And all my friends who had gone to law school or were going to law school, they had lots of debt, and they didn't like it that much. And I thought, well, let me defer law school for another couple years and keep trying this. And, and I kept finding that there was nothing I felt like I was missing from my career when I worked there. And 30 years later, it's the best experience I ever got. I'd highly recommend it. Still very close to Mr. Peebles, who started the company, just passed this year. I talked to him up until a handful of months before he passed.
That's amazing.
And all the people I worked with and worked for there are still significant people in my life.
Did you, so you just mentioned the Gainesville branch, that you ran that?
Yeah, so 1989, August of 89, opened.
Okay, so 2 years into working at Ferguson, they just said, hey, Darcy, why don't you run this branch?
No, nothing like that. So in those days, a new branch wouldn't make money for a couple years, and you'd typically take an outside salesperson off the road who made a lot of money, and you'd put them in there, and they would, they'd work. But you'd take a high dollar salesperson off the road, and you'd put them in a location that wasn't going to make money for a couple years. And I was pretty ambitious, so I went to my boss at the time, and I said, listen, you're paying me like $23,000. I've got something to prove. This place isn't going to make money anyway. Let me get in there. Let me work really hard. I was single. I wanted wanted to prove myself. So I said, pay me half of what you're going to pay someone you take off the road. I'll work my tail off because for me, it allowed me to get a leg up. I got to learn a lot. I got a leg up on the other 9 trainees who started with me. And so that's when I took the accounting class because I figured I need to learn this. Took it at night. So I convinced my boss at the time, turn this over to me. Let me have it for a couple years and see if it can't go well.
Did you think you'd fail at any point?
No, I mean, you could assume you could figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not a complicated business. There's a handful of fundamentals, right? If you're running a distribution company, you have to source really well. You've got to buy product really well. You've got to be really good at freight, moving product around. You've got to be really good at the components of warehousing, and you've got to be really good at pricing. Outside of that, most things don't matter that much. If you don't source it well, you're not going to win. If you don't move it around efficiently and cost effectively, you're not going to win. And if you don't price it right, because everything we sold at Ferguson, 50% of what we sell here at Highline Warren, other people sell it.
I'm going to stick on this time period just for a little bit. But when you think back to that time, was there maybe a mentor or somebody that kind of showed you the ropes or kind of helped you develop lanes? Or
I could list 50, honestly, 50. Ferguson. So every year, so we were bringing in 1,500 kids a year out of college at sort of pre-2008. Everybody's going through the process. Everybody's, it's a very collegial atmosphere. I could name, honestly, I'm not kidding, I could name 30 or 40 people that were significant in my development in business, personally, professionally. They're people I still talk to today, people I've spoken to in the last 24 hours that I haven't worked with or for
That's incredible.
in 20 years.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you create this culture. I'm a strong believer in culture. Culture wins every single day. And they created such a culture there that it supersedes just business. It extends past people retire, people move on to new companies, and still these relationships are significant in your life. And that's the power of culture.
We're gonna spend a bit of time on culture because I've spent a couple hours with you, maybe more than that, over the past few days, and it's almost every other sentence that the word culture shows up, and it's all around the office. So we're going to spend some time on that. But I want to make sure that I don't skip over kind of the how Darcy became the CEO that is aware of and invested in culture. What were the lessons on the way? Who were the people that showed him the ropes? So I want to spend a little bit of time in that area. You talked about the ability to kind of say right now I could name 40 or 50 people that helped mentor me, but you were the one that raised your hand that said, I will lead that. I'll take the risk here, put the bet on me. Where do you think that came from? Where do you think that kind of like need to prove something, or that belief in yourself, or that drive to, punt law school and take this gamble? Where do you think that came from?
I don't know. It's probably too deep for me. Listen, I'm the youngest of 10 kids in a crowded house with 10 kids in 14 years.
10 kids.
I'm the 10th of 10 kids.
You're the 10th
They finally got
10.
it right after 9 tries. They finally got it right.
Well, I mean, one thing I think about is like there's first child characteristics, right? And then there's like the middle child. I'm a middle child, so I've heard these like, oh, you're not the firstborn, you're the middle child. I do not know what the characteristics of a 10th child are. Like,
spoiled. First would be spoiled. It's funny. So we're all within 14 years. We're still all very close today. Probably, if I counted the number of texts, we have a text chain, just the siblings, none of our spouses, none of our kids. And I guarantee you we've texted each other more than 10 times today already. So I think a really close-knit family. I think when you're in a crowded family, you have to figure out how to raise your hand and get noticed and all that. So I think probably part of it. And I just think, I've always, played a lot of sports a lot of team sports growing up. I'm a strong believer in the competitiveness and the camaraderie that comes with team sports. And I think when I started working, I thought, okay, well, if this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to think about the long run, and I'm going to figure out what do I need in my skill set in order to succeed at this. And when I got to Gainesville, Virginia, I was 2 years out of college, and had this sort of a kind of a crusty old plumber, Kenny Lowe from Warrenton, Virginia, and he came in and he said, we got to know him, and he said, you can't service me because you don't know anything. And he said, I'm not going to buy my stuff from you because what do you know? And I said, well, teach me. So Kenny and I came up with an agreement where every Saturday I would go work in Warrenton, Virginia with him, and he wouldn't pay me, but he'd buy me breakfast and lunch. And I thought, hey, I'm making $19,000 a year. That's a good deal. And so part of it for me was building a relationship with somebody that I thought was going to be a significant customer, right? Gaining credibility with him, gaining trust with him, creating a relationship, and at the same time, learning about the industry, learning about the fundamentals of running a small business, because he was a small businessman. And Kenny and I developed this really strong relationship. He taught me things, he taught me lessons that you're not going to learn in school and you're not going to learn in a trainee class. Things like he would go change out a water heater in a really remote area of Virginia. And he'd go to the supply house in the morning and he'd buy his products and he'd drive out there. And if you pulled something wrong and he's in the middle of nowhere, Virginia, he doesn't install a water heater that day. Those people don't have don't have hot water, and he didn't make any money today. And some dumb 20-year-old kid doesn't realize the impact that they have on that. So he taught me a whole lot about, honestly, about life, about business, about relationships, and all that. So there's a lot of those small things that lasted a summer probably. I don't even know how long that lasted, but it taught me a whole lot. Years later, I moved back to that D.C. area, and I was running the D.C. area, Washington, Baltimore, for Ferguson. And the first person I went back, the day I got there, the first person I had lunch with was Kenny Lowe.
Was he willing to buy stuff for me this time?
No, I had to pay this. Well, he bought stuff, but I had to buy lunch this time.
Well, you kind of brushed through this moment, but a lot of people would take Kenny's comment as just outright rejection. I'm not buying anything from you, but you kind of just let it roll off your sleeve, and you said, "Well, just teach me."
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, I mean, there's some ingredient there of this. When you see an obstacle or some kind of challenge, you just naturally seem to go through it. I don't know if it is something that because you're the 10th kid and you otherwise you're going to get ignored. You're not going to you're going to get left out of the car on the family trip if you don't just make sure you're known or aware. But maybe it's sports. I know you said you play sports. What sports did you play?
Yeah, I played soccer all through it, including college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You played soccer in college. Where'd you go to college?
Yeah, College of William and Mary, the second oldest university in the country, the alma mater of a nation. Thomas Jefferson and I went there. He didn't play soccer, but I did.
Thomas Jeff. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
William Mary is very well known for a lot of people came out of William Mary. Right?
Yeah, sure. And so we are Division I soccer team. I went there to play soccer, and finished in '87.
Who else came out of William Mary? There were a number of government officials that came out of there. Right?
Oh yeah. So we secretly, it's interesting. So I'm on the board of trustees now, the foundation board there now, and one of the things we're working on is how do we get the name of William and Mary? How do we get our preeminence that we deserve? Mm-hmm. Because we're quietly behind the scenes running a whole lot of things, but not as visible, right? So so some early presidents went there. One of the first presidents of William and Mary was not first, but one of the presidents of William and Mary was George Washington. Thomas Jefferson went there. John Tyler went there. It's a great school that produces. It's small liberal arts state school in Virginia. It's got about 6,000 students there. I went there. My wife went there. My son went there, undergrad and grad school. And I joined the foundation board a year and a half ago.
Any notable people on your soccer team?
Yeah, our center forward was Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart,
the comedian Jon Stewart. Yeah, he was our center forward. And when we rode in our little white vans to go to games, he always wanted to be in his van because it was going to be fun.
Yeah.
He was
funny then too?
Funny then, funny now. Hasn't changed a bit. We had a 40th reunion last year of my freshman team. He came back and hung out with all the guys. When our coach retired, he came back and we roasted him and all that kind of stuff. When he was years ago, when he did a show from D.C. for a week or two, he interviewed Obama, and he reserved 4 or 5 slots in the front row for some of us to come back and sit there. He hasn't changed a bit. He's exactly who you think he is. What you see on TV is exactly him, and he hasn't changed a bit. But it was incredible. A lot of fun.
You seem to really keep in touch with, everyone from your past. So your alma mater, your family, the people that you would define as role models and mentors back at Ferguson. Where does that? I know that personally in our family, I probably don't do that naturally, but I know that my mom instilled that in us. She was like, you cannot like not talk to your siblings,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And she would send me a personal text every day to send somebody else a text about their birthday or something like that. Did your parents push that onto you, or did remind you of that, or was it just something you do
I
naturally?
think it's just I give like all credit to everything to my mom. So when I was 14, my dad passed away. He was 59 years old, had a heart attack, passed away.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and my mom lived to 99. So she was 52. She lived till 99, very healthy till 99. Her birthday's Christmas Day. She kept us all very close. We're, as I said, and we go. I don't go a day without texting half a dozen of my siblings. So I think interpersonal relationships and connections have always just been there. I don't know why. I didn't decide to do that. I read a book recently called The Good Life, and it's really interesting. Harvard University did this study in the 1950s. They started it. It's on what makes people happy, what creates happiness in people's lives. And they got these indigent people from downtown Boston, and they got a set of them and a set of privileged Harvard kids in the 1950s, and they studied what creates happiness in their lives. And they did it over 70 years. So multi-generations of these families ended up being thousands of people. And at the end of the day, what they realized is once you have enough money to not worry about paying your bills, incremental money doesn't add incremental happiness. The people who were happiest, and it ended up being thousands of people over 70 years, are people with strong interpersonal relationships with their family and their friends. And I would say I came to that book late. It just affirmed how I lived and how I was brought up. One of the things in there was, okay, I'm a 60-year-old man in America. You're going to live till 80 years old. You're going to be dead in 20 years. Think about people that add joy to your life. And I picked some guys from my soccer team in college. And how many days a year do you see them? And it was 3, maybe 4. And it said, do the math. You're going to be dead in 20 years. Are you happy with that number? And if not, change it.
Oh my God.
And so we get together every year now, our 7 of us from college, and spend a long weekend making fun of each other's hairlines and belt lines and all that kind of stuff. And it matters. And then now I do it with there's 6 or 7 guys from high school that we do it with. And it was already there with my family. So I think the power of connections, of relationships, and we talk about, our tagline for Highline Warren is people-powered performance. I think the power of those connections and relationships can beat everything.
Those are also the name of your conference rooms, right?
Yeah. So all of our conference rooms are named after
We're going to get back to that culture thing. What you just talked about reminded me, there's a guy named Tim Urban. He has a blog called Wait But Why. Super fascinating. I mean, just goes long form, really deep into topics. And one of the blogs that I think it was maybe even my intro to his blogs was he showed how through blocks of time, years or months or days, you can literally reduce your entire life, assuming you live to, you said 80, call it 90, to one page, one piece of paper in just blocks. And he goes through all these different exercises where he says, like, this is all of your time with your family, pre-18, right? It's all these days, and then if you map that out, you see your parents once every other weekend or something like that, or once a month for literally the rest of your life. That's like 20 times. Are you okay seeing your parents 20 more times for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
If not, change it, right?
Change it.
It was one of the most impactful things that I've ever read, and it makes me take an extra second with everything I do. I mean, whenever I'm leaving a room or something and I want to say, like, I forgot to say thank you or for something like that, I'll say maybe, just it reoriented me to say, okay, maybe I won't have this opportunity again. I'm going to go back in that room. I'm going to say thank you.
And I think that comes. I give credit there to my mom, and my dad. I would tell you, my dad died at 14 when I was 14. I would rather have had my dad for 14 years than most people's dads for an entire life, because he figured out a way to have 10 kids, and for the brief period of time we were all there, we all had our special moments with him. We all felt like we were his favorite in some way. And interesting story. So he initially had a heart attack and was in the hospital. I was again 14, And while he was in the hospital recovering, he ended up having another heart attack and passing later. But in the hospital, I had a soccer game at a high school next to the hospital, and he had my mom on a Thursday afternoon sneak him clothes in. He changed out of his gown, got in the car with her, drove over to the high school that was next to the hospital, watched my soccer game, came back, put his robe on, was back for dinner, and didn't tell the hospital that he did that.
Wait, this is after he had
He
a
had
heart
a heart attack. He was recovering from a heart attack in the hospital.
And he left
He
the hospital
he had my mom
to watch your
smuggle him
soccer
in
game?
clothes, changed his clothes, went and watched the soccer game, was back by dinner, and the hospital
Oh
didn't
my
know
God.
it. And that kind of gesture matter. It sticks with you, right? It sticks with you. So the relationships that you have, so it starts with family. For me, it starts with family. It's my siblings, it's my mom, my dad. It starts there, and I've tried to carry that to my family. But also, you see the strength of those relationships, and you think about work, and you think about they're not going to be that strong at work, but we can have a different relationship, a different structure with the people you work with and for and beside and all that. And those kinds of bonds are going to win the day every time. When push comes to shove, if you're going to battle with your team and you people truly know each other and care about each other and treat each other with respect and give each other room to grow and to be fallible and all those things, you're going to win. You're just going to win. All things being equal, people buy from people they trust and like. All things not being equal, they still find a way to buy from people that they like and trust.
I don't want to map this connection if it's not there, but just because sequentially we're talking about it, I can't help but connect your dad making that effort to come and watch you play soccer so you felt seen to the way the culture you have created here at Highline, and just visually, just walking through the halls.
The week of Halloween.
The week of Halloween, I mean, that's a completely different story. This is more like a Halloween store than a normal office. But the conference rooms, first of all, you made a point to walk me around this office, to show me every door, every room, every person, whether or not they were here.
Yeah.
You said, this is this person's office, this is who they are, this is what they do, this is where they came from, this is how I hired them, I remember what we had for dinner. Very thorough and very intentional. But also the conference rooms are named after your kind of values, and the pictures around the office. Maybe you can fill in the rest of this.
Yeah, so we moved over to this building a couple of years ago. We moved to our new headquarters, and I had several rules, right? I wanted the building to be a manifestation of who we are and what we stand for. And so my first rule was there's no picture in this building that is not of our people or our buildings, or our people that work in their buildings. So and I wanted the conference rooms, instead of being conference room A, B, C, D, I wanted them to reflect our values. So it's partnerships, it's people, it's power, it's performance. And so in our partnership room over there, so we make a lot of private label product. We make over 100 private label brands for other people. So our partnership room, there's a wall that's full of all the products we make for other people, just to remind us of, we get up every single day and we go to work to make those people successful. Our people room, well, obviously our main conference room is our people room, and every single picture in this building is of our people at work. And again, it's just, we got the timeline right here on the wall that goes over 100 years to remind us of the history of where we came from. We've got these huge pictures of one of our locations in San Francisco in 1933, and we've got a company picnic from 1939, a huge poster on the wall framed from a company picnic. You want to walk around the place and feel like you want to feel what you're trying to build. So we're really lucky in that when you took the companies, and we'll just say the Highline side of the company, so we put 15 companies together in 4 years. Every one of those companies had their own culture. Every one of those companies was successful, and they were regional. Some of them pretty small, $20, $30 million, pretty small, but they had a culture. And then in 2020, when we partnered with Pritzker, the other half of the company was Warren Distribution. Highly successful company, $600 million, 100 years old, super successful company, strong culture. You've got 15 companies here, you've got one company there, you're going to put them together and create a culture. Well, what culture are you going to do? Everyone agrees we should have one culture, and everyone thinks it ought to be theirs.
That's exactly where I am right now.
Yeah, and so we were really, really fortunate in that. And so going back to from 2016 to now, we got to build the management team person by person by person. Very rarely, mid-career, do you get to start, you get to use all the experience you've gained over 30 years and start from scratch. So first person that I hired was Jonas, who's our head of HR. Tell him I just moved to town from Canada. I don't know anybody. I looked him up on LinkedIn. We have kids the same age. I just want to learn about the area. Yeah. So we met at what we call my lucky Panera. There's a Panera over there in Germantown that if I my first time I meet a lot of people, I try to meet them there because it's my lucky Panera. And so Jonas got there 10 minutes before I did, bought his own coffee so he wouldn't owe me anything.
Oh my God.
And we sat down and we talked about the opportunity. And what I told him is, how often in life do you get to use all the experience you've gained over dozens and dozens of years and start over? And we don't have an HR department. We're going to create culture from scratch. We're going to create all of our processes, everything from scratch. And it's going to be yours. I'm going to hand it to you. I'm going to enable you. I'm going to make you accountable. And I'm going to be here with you all along. And we're going to decide what this company feels like. And he went home and told his wife that night, he goes, I think I'm quitting my company.
Yeah, I'm sold. I mean, that was pretty passionate.
And so so not everybody wants to do that. There's nothing wrong. Some people are working at really big companies and like the trappings of a big company, and they like all that. Some people are working at smaller companies and love the feel of a smaller company. We were 300 million, and I wanted to bring in a group of people to help get us to $1 billion. First was $1 billion, then it was $2 billion. And what I said was, I want people who have seen what large looks like, what really good looks like, but also be willing to roll up their sleeves and start from scratch and make your impression on it. And not everybody wants to do that, and that doesn't mean they're wrong, but there's a group of people. I was one, Jonas was one. We found a group of people who have seen what great looks like, who've seen what big looks like, taken lessons good and bad from that, and said, if I had the opportunity to create, Tim Shipley did it with our sales force, all of our people did it. If I have the ability to use all of my experience and start from scratch, that's really exciting.
Yeah, but I understand the opportunity to take your business experience and grow a $300 million business into a $1 billion business. I know that sounds extreme, but I can see how if you've been a part of a multi-billion-dollar business, you understand how to scale it and grow a company. But maybe it's just because I'm not from the HR world. The idea of taking a 100-year-old culture and several other cultures and saying, hey, those are great, but we're going to dismantle those and figure out what our new culture is together sounds like, it's almost Sisyphean. It's like, I don't know how you're going to do that.
So again, though, it's an incredible opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So everything works, and you've got to figure out. So the only way to do it, and Jonas and I figured this out very early on, the only way to do it is to be super intentional with everybody. And so he and I, we would go to a plant in a DC every single month for over a year, and we'd have a town hall. And we would stand up there, and my mantra was, listen, we're going to create a culture from scratch. It's not going to be Warren. It's not going to be Highline. We're going to take the best of both, and we're going to create a new culture going forward. We've created a new company. We're going to define what that means. And so I stood up, Jonas and I stood there, and we said, okay, here's what it is. I want to be the best company to work for, the best company to buy from, the best company to sell to. I can't define that. So here in these town halls, we did 2 a month, we said, if I tell you the guidelines are, I want us to create the best company to work for, what does that mean to you? So you tell me what it means. As I think about it, I want to hire you at 18 years old, and you retire at the end of your career, and you got everything you wanted out of your career. What does that company look like? And we would have these town halls, and people would initially they wouldn't say anything, and then somebody would say,
yeah, that's. I mean, I can see why they wouldn't say anything. It's almost like a
It's a trap almost.
Yeah,
You feel
almost,
like it, right?
It's almost like, you're paying lip service to the idea that,
Yeah.
hey, like, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, and so we just throw some things out, and what happens is when you go to your people and you say, we're going to do this. First of all, they don't believe you, right?
Right.
Yeah, sounds great, whatever. Thanks for the pizza. I'm going back to work. But you have to. What we did is, as we started talking about that, you start get really common themes, right? What people are looking for is treat me with respect as a human being, create a safe work environment, train me, give me the ability to move up in my career, right? Recognition. They're not difficult. They're not too much to ask for. So we start talking about this. Then as we're putting this company together, as we had to change. We had, I don't know, 19 or 20 different benefit packages and pay. As we consolidated all that to one benefit package, we tied it back to, because you've told us this is important to you with respect to benefits, we're switching to Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever. And so what we did is we got information from them, what was important from them, and then we went and made changes. And our communication was always tying it back to, we're not corporate deciding this. You guys have said this is important to you, so we went back and we acted, and now we're doing this and we're doing that, and communicating back to them. And one great example was we were in Dallas, Texas one time at a manufacturing plant, and nobody would say anything, and nobody would say anything, and I said, look, my plane doesn't leave for 3 hours. We're going to sit here, we're just going to sit here and stare at each other. We're at a pizza, and finally some guy raised his hand. He goes, why is the break room in the plant so crappy, and the one in the office is so nice? And I look at Jonas, he looks at me, I'm like, I don't know, let's go. So all 50 or 60 of us got up and we went to the one in the office, and it was nice. The break room had nice cabinets and appliances and lighting, and toilets were great, and bathrooms. We go to the one in the plant, and it was terrible, it was embarrassing. So right then and right there, I raised my hand, the guy who raised his hand, I said, okay, you're in charge. You're in charge of this. You're gonna tell me when we've done it to your satisfaction. Went to the plant manager and we said, I'm approving the money that you need to get this up to snuff, and when he's happy, we're satisfied, and we're gonna come have a new grand reopening of the break room, and the whole thing cost $5,000 or $6,000. They weren't asking much, right?
But that's incredible.
And so and what happens is, then word starts to spread throughout the organization. These people are serious. They're going to do what they say. They really do care about the work environment and care about us as people. We did new cabinets and new appliances and paint and redid the bathrooms and all that. It wasn't a significant investment, but it was a significant gesture. That was the right thing to do. First of all, shame on us for not having done it before. Shame on us for letting it get there and not noticing it.
But that's actually more common, to not do anything, to not pick up on those things. I mean, the evidence of that is the fact that that break room was in the condition it was in. Why does that happen? Why don't either more executives and leadership teams pay attention to those little things and empower their employees to fix them themselves, because it is only $5,000? Or what condition does a company get into where they allow those things to atrophy? Is it at the employee level, or is it the management level?
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer because we let it get there. So, I would say we're no better than anybody else, other than we decided we were going to create. We got the opportunity mid-career to start something from scratch. That's not how you would start it. That's not how you can't say people are at the core of everything we do and then provide them that workplace. And God bless the guy who raised his hand and said it, because that showed us that we have a lot of work to do. And the only way we were going to do it was by asking people and engaging them and then communicating back to them as we made changes. We're doing this, we've changed this because you said it was important to you. And so that's with our people. And then with our vendors, we went to our vendors and said, hey, I want to be the best to sell to. What does that mean? We interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of vendors, and it kind of boils down to pay your bills on time, grow faster than the market, and we come out with new products, get them to market really fast because they're typically high margin. And that's not that much to ask for. So I told those guys when we met with the vendors, we told them, we want you to have strategy meetings every year, and in your strategy meeting, you're trying to figure out how to run more business through us because you make more money when you run through us. And it sort of distills down to that. And then you go to customers and you say, well, I want to be the best to buy from. What does that mean? again, it sort of distills down to, care about me as a human being, make me feel like Norm walking into Cheers, have my stuff at a fair price. It's not more complicated than that.
But do you think, I mean, I'm just going to challenge you on this a little bit. Do you think it sounds like with the vendors and the customers, you have maintained that rapport where you check in all the time? What about the employees? I can see how when you're starting this new organization and you're building a new culture, you really want to put your best foot forward. You and Jonas go out there and you meet the team and you give them all the opportunities. Do you think if I spoke with a number of your employees today, full transparency, I spoke with a number of your employees before we sat down. But do you think they would say that, we still feel empowered, the company is still doing, is culture first, and we're really leading from, the base versus the top kind of thing?
Yeah, I think two things. I think we're trying really hard. We have, just yesterday, we had an all-employee town hall. We have one every quarter. We talk to them about the strategy, where we're going. We highlight things. You saw our kudos room in the lunch, our kudos wall in the lunchroom. We're trying very hard. As you get bigger and it's more spread out, communication becomes difficult. You have to make sure you don't lose that. But it's not, this isn't a Darcy thing. It's not a Jonas thing. It's an everybody thing. And we've got ambassadors at every level of the company who are championing what we are and holding us accountable when we're not. And we're very, very open to somebody raising their hand or sending an email or call saying, hey, you're failing here. This isn't what we say we are. And we're confident and comfortable enough that says, dang it, we're going to fix that. We're going to get it right. You're right. We're going to do that. And this is not about me whatsoever. This is about the entire organization that starts with senior leadership, works throughout the entire organization, that this is who we're going to be first. An outcome of that will be we grow and we're profitable and all that. But first and foremost, we're going to create an organization that lives like this. We're going to get it wrong a lot. We get it wrong a lot. But we're never satisfied. We don't think we've gotten there. We're always open to hearing the feedback. So
I appreciate you fielding that question, and playing it back in my head, I feel like I set it up as a trap, saying I spoke to a number of your employees. However, I will say that it was your employees that really pushed me to speak with you today. They all said
I avoided it for 2 years.
You worked really hard at it, but unfortunately, I am persistent. Yeah. And my team is tenacious, and we were going to make this happen because your team wouldn't let it go either. Every time we convened at industry events, they said, you have to speak to Darcy. So this wasn't coming from you. Actually, your team did exactly as you said. It's not a Darcy thing.
Yeah, it's not a Darcy thing.
They made it very clear that
it is not. It is an us thing. We had the opportunity to create culture out of whole cloth because we had all these different cultures. We got to take the best from Highline, the best from Warren. We got to put them all together and hire people that brought other things. We got to create it from whole cloth, and it is the furthest thing on earth from a Darcy thing. It's an us thing, and everybody's I think is very protective of it, and works together to not let us slip.
Yeah, but that's not just anybody, right? You have to hire those people.
Oh yeah.
So how do you think about hiring? When you think about hiring people, obviously you spent a little bit of time on Jonas, but Jonas is one of, I think you're close to 2,000 employees now.
Yeah.
What are some of your hiring philosophies?
So, first of all, the two traits I think I personally value most when I'm hiring somebody is tenacity and intellectual curiosity.
Oh, okay.
So I think tenacity, if you hire I don't care about specific product knowledge or industry knowledge. If you hire someone who refuses to lose, that person is somebody you're going to want to go through battle with, good times and bad times. And if somebody has intellectual curiosity, that means they're going to continue learning throughout their career. They're going to want to pick up new things. They're going to listen to other people within business and outside of business. It's not just business related, but people with intellectual curiosity are going to constantly challenge how we do things, why we do things, why we don't do things. Hardest part of strategy is deciding what not to do. So sitting there and thinking about what we do and what we don't do and why don't we do that. And you want people who are not going to just accept what we do and come in and just go to work and do this. You want
Right.
people who are going to refuse to lose, and people who are going to raise their hand and say, hey, have we thought about this? Or why are we doing this? Or there's a better way to do that. So those two I always look for. Within the senior leadership team, as we grew that, what we tried to get is people, I talk about it, who have been in big companies, who have been in really well-run companies, and were eager to come backward to where we were, roll up their sleeves, and create something from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, I love that pitch. How do you take? How many times do you have an opportunity to take all of your knowledge and then start over anew and say, hey, listen, I have all the answers to the test.
Yeah,
I just gotta like fill them in.
And the ability to leave that legacy, and just you've got the baton, someone handed it to you, you're going to have it for a while, you're going to hand it to somebody else. But to create your impact, and one of the biggest impacts, people who had the biggest impact in this company is Brad Moreski, who's now our president and COO.
He's from Procter and Gamble.
Procter and Gamble, Gillette, Bridgestone,
Right.
And hired him as a CFO. And what impressed me, well, a lot of things impressed me, but we interviewed via Zoom or Teams on a Friday afternoon. It was supposed to be an hour. It went like 2.5 hours, and we decided we needed to keep talking, so we talked again on Saturday for another couple hours.
That's incredible.
And he was super excited to be able to create what we're talking about, to get on this ride with us and to really have a big impact. And what I liked about him a lot is his last 4 or 5 years at Bridgestone, they parachuted, so they took him out of divisional CFO roles and parachuted him into growing or troubled parts of the company and said, go fix it. So he was a CFO with real practical experience in the business, but also his personality is exactly, when we're hiring people, we're thinking about, is this somebody you want to sit in a conference room with and have contentious arguments with and go out and have lunch with afterward? Are they people who in our senior leadership team, we're not good at staying in our lanes. I don't want people staying in their lanes. I want everybody contributing on every topic.
That's what's going to happen if you hire intellectually curious people.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to wonder whatever. Like, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Yeah, and Colleen, who runs IT, will chime in on sales, and Carrie, who runs marketing, will chime in on finance, and that's what you want. And so Brad brings this. I mean, he is one of the most upbeat people. What he has created within the finance team is unparalleled. He's had the biggest impact of anyone I've ever worked with in my entire career. I think he has had the largest impact on an organization in the shortest amount of time, and that's why. So we moved him from CFO to president and COO about a year ago.
Oh, wow.
And this guy is the first person in here in the morning. He makes coffee at all the coffee pots in the building. He walks around constantly. He is a culture builder, and he is somebody that you look forward to seeing him when you get to the office in the morning. And that's not just me; that's everybody. He believes in what we're doing. Fundamentally, all the basics of being a CFO, being a president, being a chief operating officer. He's got that in spades, but he also has the culture piece, the soft piece.
Mm-hmm. So, but when you bring in all these people from these large companies, you seem to figure out the culture thing, but how do they not bring their own culture with them and their own personalities?
Yeah, well, we want them to bring, we don't, culture's never done.
Right.
So if they can bring something in that we can adopt and is better, great. But as you're going through the interview process, we interviewed loads of people with the right technical skills or better technical skills than we have here, but they weren't going to fit. I'm a big believer of fit. They weren't going to fit with our team. When you walked around here today and yesterday, you see how we are.
Right.
That's great for us. It's not great for everybody. There are some people who want to work in a hierarchical organization or something that's more buttoned up. We're not. We take our business very seriously. We don't take ourselves very seriously at all. And you've lived that over the last couple of days.
Sure.
So that atmosphere attracts certain people. And if those people are right for us, then we take them. It doesn't attract others. Doesn't mean that we're right or wrong. It's just what we have built, the way we've built it. It'll attract the right kind of people for us.
Yeah. When you say you don't stay in your lane, obviously, I mean, you don't have a lane, right? You're the CEO.
Yeah.
Your lane is the entire company. But, can you walk me through maybe a recent debate, or how do you solve problems in the company when you hire these people who are, large company professionals in their discipline, and they come in and, you have to settle, but they're intellectually curious. So they are going to debate across departments. And one person is going to say, I'm from Procter & Gamble. I'm from Williams and Sonoma. This is how we do it. And then I'm in HR and I'm in finance. How do you settle those debates?
So first of all, I don't settle them. They come up, absolutely. They always come up. But my job isn't to settle them. So as I think about my job, I am chief cheerleader, chief belief builder, chief of strategy. So my job is to select the right people, make sure that they are accountable. They're accountable for what. So if it's sales or marketing or HR or whatever, you own that, and you are 100% accountable. I expect you to own it. First thing I have to do is make sure you are enabled to achieve that. So you've got the right resources, you've got the right people, you've got the right structure. What I'm asking for out of you is crystal clear. This is success looks like this. You're enabled, you're accountable, you own it. I get out of their way. My job then is to be a sounding board for them. My job is I will parachute in, spend some time with you, figure out what you're working. Inevitably, things come up in an organization, not because people fight or something, but there are with any functions, there's going to be competing priorities, right? So things will come up where IT wants this, or sales will want that, or marketing will want that, and we'll sit down. If you have the right people that all have this connection, you're gonna argue through it correctly, and you're all gonna go out to lunch afterward and have a great time. You're going to discuss with each other in a respectful, appropriate manner. So it's gonna be about issues. It's not gonna be about personalities, first of all. And then what I'll do, and this is not just me, this is what we do. I don't wanna make it about what I do. What we do is created an atmosphere where we get in there and we talk about it, and we do it through a lot of questions. What are we trying to achieve? Which is more important, higher priority right now? Well, if we wanted to do that, what resources will it take? And are those resources working on something that we've agreed is a higher priority? We've got a really tight project management office that we've got at any given time 12 or 13 really significant projects that we're working on. And how does it affect those? So we get in there and we just start talking as a group, and it's not me, it's us, going through it rationally as a group. Well, if we want to introduce this new private label product, or if we want to buy this company, or if we want to do whatever, how does it affect everything else we're doing? Is it a higher priority? Is the timeline reasonable? Are we resourced correctly? And at the end of the day, you get to the right answer. Because the people treat each other.
You decide the answer, or
most of the 99% of the time we get to the right answer.
Okay.
I might have the tie-breaking vote, but very rarely do we get in there and I'm the boss and this is what we're going to do. I couldn't tell you the last time that happened. As an organization,
did you have bosses like that? I know that there are a lot of CEOs that is their actual assessment of their job is to decide.
Yeah.
Right. Well, to sit down and say, I am the CEO, and this is the.
Well, one thing I'll say, I try hard to never make a decision that someone else can make. So I want them to be able to make.
A skill.
I want the organization and the leadership to be able to make decisions, and we have a team. We truly, truly, truly respect each other personally and professionally, and care about each other.
Yeah.
And you're going to argue the right way, and we all have the same goal in mind. Again, you may be a little parochial on your priorities versus someone else's priorities, but they're going to get there. And at the end of the day, we're sitting around a table. They're going to be able to make the right decisions. Very, very rarely is there an instance where I have to say, okay, you're not getting anywhere. I can't remember the last time that happened. But my job is, if I start making decisions that other people can make, then I'm usurping their power. I'm undercutting them. I'm saying you're accountable, but yet I'm going to tell you how to do it.
All right. Well, what about? I'm just going to stick on this for a second, but I want to test this leadership team. What was one of the most significant setbacks you feel like you faced Maybe it's not even this team, but professionally or at Highline, what is the most
All
significant?
right. Well, obviously, everyone faced COVID. Everyone faced supply chain. I'm not even going to do that. That's everyone faced that.
Okay, fair.
Okay. So, during COVID, people stopped driving cars. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. But we're not even going to go to COVID. So, I want to say 2021. So we sell a lot of filters
Okay.
to quick lubes and oil change companies. So we had a sole source supply agreement with a manufacturer for over 30 years. Every year, we bought 100% of our filters from them. We go out and sell it to quick lubes and oil change places. And we did roughly 27 million filters, I think it was. Right? I know it was. 27,
wow.
27 million filters. For 30 years, we bought it from this company.
Nationally.
Yep. The CEO of that company, really good friend of mine. I know his wife. He knows my wife. We know each other's kids because that's how you want to do business, right? And so we had just signed a new contract, renewed our contract for another 3 years. We agreed we're going to buy 27 million filters next year, blah, blah, blah. That company got sold. That company, who we had sole sourced our products with for 30 years, by January or February, we had gotten to such an impasse that they weren't going to sell us any more filters, and he wasn't going to sell it, and we weren't going to buy it if he did sell it, because we didn't agree with the way they were running the business, what they had done to the business, their business practices. We didn't like it. So we've got this business. We've got a business, a chunk of our business, one of our channels, well over $100 million of business.
27 million filters.
27 million filters. I mean, we sell mostly filters in that space. Filters are our lead product. We've got a whole bunch of customers that have sole sourced filters from us. And we got to the point where we said, we can't do business with these people. In fact, we're going to sue the people. And so as an organization, we talked about it. We all agreed there's no going forward with this. But if you turned around, you said, okay, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Because nobody
Sole
else,
source.
yeah,
Single
sole source for 30 years. And we had a lot of customers. There's quick lube franchisees who had hundreds of quick lubes who were sole source with us. And we had to explain to them what happened, do what we could for as long as we could, but we ran out of filters. I mean, we just did, because
I thought you were going to say you missed like a quarter, but it's 5%
we missed over a year. So what we had to do, so we sit down as an organization and we said, okay, we've all agreed this is the right thing to do. Failure is not an option. What are we going to do? So we said, okay, we're going to go create a global supply chain network where we're going to go over to Asia and we're going to go over everywhere and start relationships with manufacturing plants and build it from scratch. We created, and I'll get it wrong, it's like 13 plants in 11 different countries. And since then, since we decided we're going to go do it ourselves, the heck with you guys, we're going to build it ourselves. Since then, Mobile One has made us their sole source of Mobile One filters for the next 5 years. So if you buy a Mobile One filter in North America, it's coming through us. So votes of confidence on what we did, how we did it. We're back to 99.1% fill rates in 48 hours anywhere in the country. And we've built this. So now we're super proud of it. We know how resilient our supply chain is. We know we got punched in the nose. We were on the canvas. We know as an organization we got back up. It's a rallying cry. We got every single customer back except for one. And we'll get them back eventually, but every single customer that was buying all those from us, we've won a whole bunch more customers than we had before.
That must have been so hard for you personally.
I mean, you don't sleep. You don't sleep. I mean, it's awful. But again, for me personally, it wasn't me personally. It was the organization. It was the team. We all had our role. We all agreed it's the right thing to do. It's the only thing to do. We all said, okay, Robert Frost has this great quote, says the best way out is always through. There's no going around it, right? This is where we are. The only way we're going to get through this is to get through this. You can't delay it. You can't go around it. You got to put your head down. You got to muscle through it. And as an organization, everybody rallied together and said, we're going to build our own. The heck with them. We're going to build our own. We're going to build it better. And if we got to build our own, how would we do it? And so everyone chummed. And it was a leadership team decision to sever the ties, a leadership team decision to go source our own. And every single person in that leadership team, every single function in the company had to have played a major role for us to get there. It wouldn't have worked.
But did how did you? Yes, the we as an organization, but how did you, handle that as a leader in terms of like exhibiting confidence and you must have been having a bunch of bad days. So
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm a firm believer. So my job, I can't have a bad day. I believe the leader of an organization.
What does that mean? You can't have a bad day?
I believe
everyone has a bad day.
Yeah, I know. Well, you do, but you don't show it. So what happens is, as the CEO of a company, if something goes wrong, people look to you, and if you freak out, they know they should freak out. If people come in, if you have an open door policy and people are coming, they want to have a call with you or walk into your office, and if they see you having a temper tantrum, slamming, shouting, they're going to be less likely to come in next time and ask you for your advice on things. So I believe the leader of an organization has to maintain just a very level playing field. So that person can't be up and down. You can't work for mercurial people well and comfortably and confidently. You have to, in order for someone to be comfortable coming to me with an issue or a problem or an opportunity, they have to feel like I'm going to internalize it, ask them rational questions, push back here and there, but I can't blow up. So, I mean, there are a lot of times during that process with the filters where I just had to hop in my car and just drive. Yeah. Just, hey, I'm going to be out today doing stuff. And I just had to get out of here because I wasn't able to control my emotions and I needed to not be around people.
You just left the office.
I just left the office. There are times I would work from home. There are times I would just get in a car and drive somewhere, go for 2 or 3 hours, half a day, and just drive. But what I couldn't do was project this roller coaster of emotions to the organization, because you can't have people experiencing that, because an organization can't work like that.
Yeah.
I had many sleepless nights. I had discussions one-on-one with people where they knew how upset I was or how scared we were about it or something like that. But as an organization, you have to be the chief cheerleader. You're the one who can see over the horizon. You're picking the long-term strategy. We had to talk a lot. We talked a whole lot, not just me. We talked a whole lot about what this is going to be on the other side, why we made the decision we made, how we're going to get there, how is it going to be painful for how long, and what it's going to be like at the end. So I'm a firm believer that the CEO of the company has to be just steady.
Yeah. You have used, I've heard you use another quote, and maybe it's applicable to this, but I guess it's like kind of like deal with the situation as is, but bloom where you're planted.
Bloom where you're planted, yeah. Early boss of mine, one of the most you talked about people who influenced me a lot at Ferguson. I worked for probably half my career for a guy named John Garrett. And I used to tell John Garrett he was often wrong but never in doubt. He was, and to this day, I spoke to John Garrett yesterday. So I haven't worked for John Garrett, since probably the 90s. I talked to him yesterday. He helped me when it was time for me to leave Ferguson and go to private equity. He helped me. His wife, his children. I talked to him yesterday because one of his grandchildren was had gotten engaged over the weekend, and he wanted to tell me about it.
That is incredible.
That's culture. That's culture. That's David Peeble started that at Ferguson Enterprises. We all have that running through our veins. John Garrett. So his wife Rose, his daughters and son and son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws and grandchildren. We're family. Yeah. But he had this saying where you bloom where you're planted. And you think about going through your career as you're going up, you're always looking at what's the next thing. Well, I want to be that. I want to be that. And what he kept saying is bloom where you're planted. So if I put you in a job, it's not going to be where you want to be ultimately. Learn everything you can from that. Make everyone around you better while you're there. There's experiences you're going to gain from having that position. So gain all the experiences, help everybody be successful around you, and then work yourself out of a job. You become so valuable to the organization that I have to promote you.
That is such a
simple. It's simple.
Simple, but so profound, because it calls on such like illustrative, and like a picture in my head where I always walk around wondering why people do the jobs they do, right? Like, you even started this by saying I was going to go to law school, or I was studying British literature or poetry or something like that, right? And probably there was a passion there, but somehow you were stuck in plumbing, right? But you found your calling there, and or at least something that your spark there, and that's led you to here. But it's not just you; it's literally everybody, right? I don't know how many people are in the jobs or businesses or industries that they aspired to be in, because I don't think anyone even knew half the things that, like, the people. I don't think people who were in your company even assumed that there was like fluid mixing business that they were going to be a part of. And when you use the phrase "bloom where you're planted," I think about seeds, right? Like things off of trees or plants. They don't have a calling or a pick or of where they land and what dirt they fall in. They just bloom where they're planted, and they're successful wherever they are. And it almost makes me think about, our ambition as people as like unnatural. The natural way is just bloom where you're planted, like be successful and landing where you are. But and maybe I'm taking it too far.
No, but sort of to drive this metaphor into the ground, the people who are above you. So as I was growing up in Ferguson, and I'm doing a job that I really wanted the next one. I want to be that. I want to be that. But I think about, the Chip Hornsbys and John Garrett's, different people I worked for. They, as they're planting that seed, they're not yelling at that seed to grow. They're removing impediments for growth, right? So they're helping you bloom where you're planted by removing impediments for you to be successful. And if I can tell you, in every single job I've ever had, and however long I've been working, 39 years, I've learned something from every single role. I didn't love every single role. Some of them I didn't like, but I had to do it. I had to learn from it. I had to, what do I take from that, and how do I use that in my next role, and how do I get someone to replace me? So pipeline of promotable people is something we talk a lot about at Ferguson, is you're going to win with good people, and you can only grow as an organization if you've got a pipeline of promotable people that are coming through the organization that are all eager for bigger and better things, and are going to bloom where they're planted. They're going to be really successful here, and as an organization, you're going to grow and grow and grow.
So one of the common traits, and you just did it, and I want to call it out, but you, with executives, and some of the best executives, is that they are rich and deep storytellers. And so I was bringing up kind of your leadership style and the culture of this organization, and I mentioned an artifact on one of your walls over here, and you took the story back all the way to like 1800, 1805. But it is so with such deep history and richness that you bring it back up to the present day as to why you are the way you are, the way you lead, the way you do, or what you want this company to be. It really is. It's one of the most remarkable skills that I pay attention to or notice in successful executives. There are a lot of books behind us. There are books behind us. There are books on your desk. In all the
my house.
in all the conversations I've had with you, you're referencing a book or talking about a book or bringing up a quote. You're an avid reader. You're an incredibly
voracious reader.
Voracious reader. Can you just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, it's why I became an English major. Two reasons you become an English major: because you're a voracious reader, and because you love disciplines where there's not a right or wrong answer. If I can write a 20-page paper and wear you down with words, I'll do that all day long.
Okay.
So I've just always been a voracious reader. My parents were voracious readers. My family all are voracious readers. I grew up in a house full of books and full of, we trade books back and forth constantly. I've had long commutes. For a while when I was living in Boston, north of Boston, we bought a company south of Boston. I was commuting 2 hours to work and 2 hours home. Books on tape, audiobooks.
Do you have any that stand out to you?
Oh God, I've got a million. So yeah. So a couple.
Maybe pick a couple.
A couple. I talked about The Good Life recently. So many of them are not business books. I usually will have a business book, but I always have a lot of historical books and all that. There's one really interesting one I read lately. It was called Ben Franklin's Last Bet. And Ben Franklin He died in like 1805 or something, but before he died, in his will, he left $1,000 to the city of Boston and $1,000 to the city of Philadelphia, his city that he's born in, city that he was apprenticed in and spent his adult life. And he was a huge believer in the trades, and he left $1,000 to both cities. And the parameters were, you have to loan this out to tradesmen starting their own business in the city, and the interest rate has to be this, and the loan has to be repaid by then. And he figured it out that if you use this $1,000 and you use this interest rate, at the end of 100 years, this was all, he wrote this all, so the city could take no fee to manage the fund. It had to be managed free of cost. It had to go to these tradespeople starting. At the end of 100 years, there ought to be this much in the fund. And I want you to scrape that out and then open parks or libraries or things that are free to everybody in the city, and then do it again for another 100 years. And it went on until, 1990 something.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, and so the book is really interesting. It's just about how each city managed the money differently. But most importantly, there's a guy who was thinking 200 years out. How do I influence people and things 200 years out?
But see, that's a lesson. You said you don't read business books, but that's almost a better lesson. That kind of like long-term, sustainable, leadership thinking. I mean, the kind of lessons that we learn today, they're almost these. It's what's it called? It's like the shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve phenomenon, where like the first generation builds it, and then the second generation kind of maintains or spends it, and then the third generation just blows it. I mean, it's not very typical that people think in like 200 plus year timelines.
Yeah, we don't have the luxury of doing that. But when somebody can, and then is smart enough to figure out how to have that impact. So that's a history book, but it's also a business book, right? It's about how to have strategic long-term thinking. Another book interesting, the book called Chesapeake Requiem. In the middle of Chesapeake Bay is this tiny little island called Tangier Island. And like 600 people live on Tangier Island. But if you ever ate soft-shell crabs on the East Coast, they probably came from Tangier Island. And what happens is the Chesapeake Bay is rising. And this little island, I went and visited it. I was in high school and drove up there, took the ferry over and went and visited it. And there's no doctor on Tangier Island. There's no cars on Tangier Island. These people are fishermen and crab people and very hard scrabble existence, and they love that existence. And it's so remote. I went there in 82. It's so remote that they've sort of maintained a really one of the best examples of a 17th century British dialect anywhere in the world.
Oh,
so linguists actually go there and study their phrases and words and all that. Anyway. This guy who wrote for the Virginia Pilot newspaper had spent some time there in the 80s and went back and spent a year there recently, and studied the impact of the rising Chesapeake Bay. Coastal sustainability is a really big deal, and the Chesapeake Bay is overtaking this island, and how are the people dealing with it, and going. So it's just, again, it's just. I have intellectual curiosity. I read a lot of books about whole lot of things.
You're a very passionate people person. You think you have a deep connection to your family, long history and memory and connection to people you've worked with and friends, and you bring that into your company, and you want the people in this business to
bring theirs
that.
in too. I want them to bring theirs in, yeah.
That's
More
incredible.
importantly than I want them to know that matters to me, I want them to bring theirs in. Because that's a rich history then. And you put all that together and it's a recipe.
I mean, yeah, your personal one.
Yeah, our Newfoundland.
There's a deed, right? Or what is it?
So both my mom and dad's families have lived in Newfoundland, Canada since early 1800s, 1805, 1806. So Ian, Connie, and I, the last three in my family, are the only three people in our family, my mom or dad's side, not born in Newfoundland since the early 1800s. And so over there on the wall, I've got a deed to a house. We still have a house up there. We have a farm up there.
Side note about Newfoundland, when I was preparing for this conversation, I had a blank sheet of paper in front of me, and my 9-year-old was walking around. I said, "Hey, can you help me out for a second? I'm talking to a guy next week, and he runs a company, and I'm supposed to ask him questions. I can't think of anything." And I said, "Can I just tell you about him a little bit, and then you help me think of questions?" He goes, "Yeah, sure." And I said, he's got a huge family. He's number 10 of 10 kids. He reads a ton of books. He's a CEO of a company in Memphis, Tennessee. His lineage is from Newfoundland. He goes, "Oh, Newfoundland, ask him about the Titanic." And he points on a map, and I did not know the Titanic sank so close to Newfoundland, but apparently 9/11 is not the only.
Yeah, the rescue boats. The rescue boats came out from Newfoundland.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, is that something that's like in the history of?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just it's interesting. The people who believe in the flat Earth, one of the corners of Earth is Fogo Island, Newfoundland, and and 9/11 is the best example. When the rest of the world got to see what Newfoundlanders are like, was on 9/11. When uncoordinated, Gambo, Newfoundland, Gander, Newfoundland, St. John's, Newfoundland. These people just went out and took people into their homes. And people got to understand. There's a United flight. The entire flight was in people from Gambo came out and picked up folks from this flight, this United flight that was going into, I forgot where. But that flight started a scholarship fund for the children of Gambo, Newfoundland, to thank them. So a college scholarship fund for the entire town of Gambo, Newfoundland, from this one flight, because they had, on ostensibly the worst day that could have been anybody had ever experienced.
Terrible.
They showed such hospitality, and it didn't need to be coordinated, because that's who they are. And that's my mom. I mean, that's my siblings. I get it all from them. I'm the youngest. It all just trickles on down. You do what you do because of them. We'll talk about it. The cards I do for them.
You shared a couple of those. Can you talk about those?
Yeah. So I've got hundreds of cards. You have your little 5x7 card with your name across the top. You write them as thank you notes to people. Well, early on, very early on, when my son was born, 2001, around then, I decided that everybody in life, every parent, every child remembers the big things, the really big things in life. And what you don't remember or memorialize are the little things. And the little things in life are what matter. So my dad coming to my soccer game is something that changed my life.
Yeah.
Right? And it was a big thing, but little things matter. My mother, watching my mother up until she lived to be 99 a couple of years ago, watching the grace with which she did everything she did, is the little day-to-day things mattered more than the big things. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to capture all the little things that you forget. So I end up, right now, cut to the end, I've got over 100 cards for each kid that are the little things in life that you wouldn't remember. And what I'll do is I'll write it down, I'll seal it in an envelope, I'll write a cryptic thing on the front and a date, I'll throw it in a shoebox. And over years and years and years, I have hundreds of them for each kid. And now they're getting to an age where it's fun at Christmas time or Thanksgiving or whatever. We pull out 4 or 5 for each kid and we open them. And you don't, it's so cryptic on the front, you don't quite know what's in it. But it might be. I mean, I read you one last night. I have my son's first tooth he ever lost. You're 6 years old on this date. We were eating chips at a Mexican restaurant, and your tooth got wobbly, and you pulled it out, and you were bleeding all over, and you were so excited you ran over, and all that. And we have his first tooth, and we have that thing. It wouldn't be something you remembered. First night in your big girl bed, your big boy bed. Those aren't all the little things that in life inform who you are and form who you are, but are just day-to-day little things. I think it's really good to memorialize that. My father-in-law's passed now. My son caught his first fish with his grandfather on their property in their lake. I have the picture. I have a picture of those two with the first fish my son ever caught, and I wrote everything that happened that day, and it's sealed up, and he's got that now for the rest of his life.
But in a way, I first of all, I love that, and I will try to do that in my own life. I will fail at that. I know that already, but I'm going to try to because I love it so much. But I also know, I see how in that exercise, you see people. You personally let people know that you see them and you capture a moment of them. And that shows up in your company today. I mean, you shared with me, and I really appreciate it last night, a note that you'd written your mom. You didn't remember writing it. It was just some random day. You couldn't even figure out why you wrote it. And it was just, I get it. There were like fleeting moments, but you captured it and you gave it to her, and she kept it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was, I got married in August of 97, and this was like 8 months later. So I wasn't changing jobs. We weren't moving or whatever. I don't remember it at all, but my mom passed, and my sisters were cleaning out stuff and found this note and got it back to me. And it just says, hey, I'm at this point in my life. I'm newly married. I'm working. My life turned out way better than I ever thought it would. I am a more confident person. I'm very comfortable and confident where I am. My life turned out perfectly. Mm-hmm. And I owe all that to you.
I mean, as a parent, I can't imagine what that feels like, getting that note. Thanks for sharing that with me. Well, I've spent a lot of time with you. I want to try to land this plane, and I really appreciate the time you've given me today. But you've built something pretty amazing here, both on a professional, kind of team and culture level, but also from a business level. What is your vision for this organization? What should I look out for over the next few years?
Yeah. So it took us 2016 to 2025 to go to grow about $1 billion, a little over $1 billion. We're going to grow. The plan is for the next 5 years to do it again. So we're currently roughly around $2 billion today. When we're $4 billion, when we're $6 billion, when we're $8 billion, we will look similar. Mm-hmm. But what we'll do is we'll branch out. So I think about ways to grow a business. Easiest, fastest, most economical way to grow a business is to sell existing customers existing products. So there's over $1 billion of opportunity of products we already carry to customers we already have who aren't buying those products. So we've got that broken down to a SKU and a customer level. We know there's $1 billion worth of growth sitting here.
What's an example?
So a typical customer, somebody who owns a couple shops in the Northeast, they buy 5 different categories from us, but they don't buy 5 others. Because everyone that buys from us buys from other people too. Okay. So as we think, we have all of our customers segmented, and we know the ideal market basket for each one, and very few of them are buying everything we can. So without having new customers, without having new inventory, without having anything, we've got $1 billion opportunity to grow. That is the most economical way to grow. The customers like you because they buy from you. They pay their bills because you're letting them buy from you. They buy these products because other customers, other contractors, or other shops buy those products. So that's one. So I look at us. We're $2 billion. I think I don't want to downplay it, but getting to $4 billion and $6 billion, pretty darn easy. Sticking to our knitting. So we think about our big retail customers. So mass retail customers, let's talk about mass retail customers, not just automotive, but mass retail. Categories that they buy that they don't buy from us. So right now we're down the automotive aisle, but if you go around the corner, there's a household cleaning aisle down there that has gallons of blown bottles, has liquids that are mixed in there. So existing customers, products they're already buying but not buying from you.
Incredible.
So getting into household cleaners with existing customers is really adjacent. Again, we'll always stay out of hard parts because then we're competing with our customers. Mm-hmm. But we're trying to think about ways to grow that are really adjacent. I don't envision us going over to Europe and Asia. We don't need to, because our success is our ability to deliver within concentric circles around our footprint. Mm-hmm. Our moat is our footprint, our ability to manufacture and distribute, and then the moat is building that footprint is difficult and costly. We spent $20 million on one distribution center last year, and people aren't lining up to build manufacturing and distribution for cheap, heavy, consumable products. So I think about us saying, okay, with existing customers, fastest way to grow, existing products, existing customers, then you get existing customers, new products, then you get new products for existing customers. That's how you grow. So I think about through M&A, buying companies that are very adjacent, that's the same customer base, but different products. So I think about household cleaners. I think about, we do very, very little in heavy duty today. We do a whole lot of passenger car work, but heavy duty is super adjacent, same products, different SKUs, but same categories and all that. You're not going to fight, the EV transition for a long time in the heavy duty space.
Right.
So I think about So I think about heavy duty. I think about household cleaners. I think about appearance chemicals that are everything over the hood, and I think about industrial lubes. So wherever there's manufacturing, there's friction,
That's right.
and friction needs to be reduced. And so industrial lubes those are pretty adjacent. And when you add those together, the total addressable market for a company like that is somewhere north of $50 billion, and we're scratching it too.
So you'll stay busy for the foreseeable future, but you're not going to do this forever.
No.
Right? What are you going to do after this?
What am I going to do? Well, when I started work, I was going to retire at 50, and I was going to become Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society. My dream job was to coach soccer and teach English at a small New England high school. I'm probably not going to do that. They probably won't hire me anymore. What I want to do is I want to do this. I've got a lot of gas left in the tank. I want to keep doing this for a while. I want to successfully transition it to a successor. And in the perfect world, nobody notices, right? In a perfect world, because it's not about me, it's about what we've built as a team. The succession makes sense, it happens, and everyone goes, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And they don't notice I'm gone. So ideally, I'd transition to chairman of the board here, go from CEO to chairman. Transition into successor here. The company then, because what happens too, you need someone coming in periodically to have a fresh look and take you in new angles and do all the things that you're not good at and they're better at. So for the organization, I want to be here as long as it makes sense for me, for them to be here and take and get further on this journey, and then have a really smooth transition. And what I want to do then is serve on boards. I told you I'm on the foundation board at William and Mary. I've really enjoyed that. I've been on our board since we started the company, but I really like the idea of lending my experience at a board level to sort of mid-market distribution companies, helping them go through the journey and make fewer of the mistakes that we did, and maybe help there. I think it'd be really fun to get on a handful of boards. Chairman of this board, hand this over to somebody else at some point.
Are you going to have the time to do all this volunteer work? I mean,
time. So I mentioned my mom earlier. So my mom became a widow, 52, 10 kids, and in her. So my mom, we're trying to figure out the exact hours. I'll get it wrong, but as she's raising 10 kids, 52 years old, she went to Mass every single morning of her life. And when she left Mass, she would volunteer at Mary Immaculate Hospital in Newport News, Virginia. She volunteered there. And at her retirement, she has more hours it's north of 10,000 hours. So in her spare time, right? In her spare time, raising kids by herself. And
who's watching you?
God, no, older siblings.
Oh, okay.
Older siblings, yeah. I'd get the mess knocked out of me if I messed up too much. But so my mom found time where nobody should have ever found time. So we have time. We can create time, right? You prioritize things. So not only did she volunteer at the hospital, then she ended up running the volunteers. Then she ended up on the board of the hospital. And then at church, they were building a new church for us. And she said, well, I've got some time, so I'll be on the design committee. I'll be on the construction committee. So there's a lady who, never taller than 5 feet in her life, never more than 100 pounds in her life, 10 kids, and had time to do all those things. And so time, and I speak about her, and then I go to my wife. My wife's an obstetrician. My wife does everything in our family. My wife gets more things done in the course of a day than any human being I've ever met. Like, her superpower is she gets more stuff done than any human being ought to be able to do. So time it's almost a fallacy. I think you could people. I look at my wife and I look at my mother. The amount of stuff they can fit into a day or a week is almost limitless.
I love
And if
that.
you love it,
It's clear that you've built something, from the combination of the businesses to building this culture, to building a leadership team, building a company, and you have quite a vision for where this company is going to go in the future. If I talk to somebody 5 or 10 years from now, and they had spent some time with you in their professional time, what do you want them to say about you? What kind of impression or impact do you want to have left behind?
I've never thought about that. So, I've talked about John Garrett and Chip Hornsby and people who have had an impact on me. I guess what I'd like them to say is, I'm a better professional for having worked with him. My priorities are aligned. We had a speaker come speak to us years ago, and he talked about who packed your parachute. So when it's time for you to jump out of your plane, there are people that helped you pack your parachute to get you ready for when it's your time to jump out of a plane. So I guess I'd like to think that I'm glad he helped pack my parachute for me.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah,
great.
so I think just they saw what priorities should be. We created an organization here where I think we have very shared priorities, and I think they're the right priorities. And an output of hiring the right people and giving them the right space and training and doing all the things we're trying to do is good results. Good financial results. We talk about EBITDA a whole lot, and we talk about it as an output of what we're doing, not as the goal or what we're striving for every single day. It's an output. If you do everything right, that comes.
Who packed my parachute?
Who packed your parachute? Yeah.
I love it. Darcy, I can't thank you enough for
Yeah.
spending the time with me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you again.
Thanks.